Hey, what's up guys? Nick here from Sessions Motorsports. Today we were going to show you the old TS 2.0, this badass 1948 Willys. So there's a previous video that we did on this Willys, and the gentleman that owns this has actually owned this thing for 40 years. We built it about 2 years ago from a pretty much stock Willys. If you want to check out more about it, go back on our channel and watch that previous video. We got the Willys back because this guy decided he wanted pretty big horsepower for this thing, which entailed new axles and some different tires. So we just kind of went to another stage with it. So why don't we go ahead and check out what we did, and we'll kind of go from there. So come check out the front axle. That's one of the big steps that we did. So this had a 44 in it, a custom built high pinion 44, and it had about 300 horsepower before, and it was on 37-inch BFGs. And we decided to step up to a little over 500 horsepower. And so we knew those 44s, we were asking too much out of them. So this is a XD Dynatrac 60. It's all 35 spline chromoly with 513 gears and ARB air locker. And so we put the new 60 in it. It's got a much better brake package. When we did that, we obviously stepped up to the 39-inch BFGs. He's got a set of 39-inch red label crawlers also that he'll throw on for wheeling, and then these are more for road use. So this thing gets used a lot. It's got over 2,000 miles on it already since we put it together. So this guy drives this thing all the time. Check out this tire and wheel package on it. It's a 39-inch BFG mud terrain TA on a Dirty Life wheel. We actually specifically chose to go with the 5-on-5.5 lug pattern because it's kind of old school Jeep, Bronco, Scout, kind of the older school setup. And so it was pretty sweet that Dynatrac worked with us on this. Once again, just to touch on how awesome this thing is, you can see the Sessions Motorsports chassis. You can see that we went with a coil spring, and then we had Radflo build these one-off bypass shocks just for this rig. So they're specific travel, valving, all the setup, the tube placement, everything was built just for this. So let's go ahead and check out just overall of the thing. This Willys is awesome. We did a ton of work to this body when we built it the first time originally. We highlined the fenders. It's been stretched in the front, stretched in the middle, and stretched in the back, and it has about a 95-inch wheelbase, which is pretty similar to like a stock TJ. So just for reference, a Willys has an 80-inch wheelbase when they were built. So it's got a big stretch, but it's hard to get these things too long and keep them proportionate and looking like they're supposed to look. So again, highline fenders, so we had to modify the hood, bring the fender up. That keeps the vehicle low but allows it to fit 39s. 39s are a huge tire on a flat fender. We lengthened the body in this midsection to give it a little bit more room. Go ahead and check out the cockpit. It has these awesome PRP seats with the awesome ostrich and black diamond and diamond stitching. They're heated as well. The dash is really cool in this thing. We spent quite a bit of time working on the dash. It's got a hot rod gauge cluster and then a full flowing center console. And again, like I said, it's got kind of all the bells and whistles for as small as this thing is. It has a really nice roll cage in it. This is all 1 3/4 DOM with 1.5 inch lacing. In the back, or sorry, while we're up here, let's check out these awesome rockers that we do. We've done quite a few sets of these for Willys. It kind of keeps with the factory lines the way the tub moves in here, but it's also very, very functional. Bolted to the body, the cage bolts through, and this ties into the frame and the tub as well. When we did all the work on this tub, we actually sectioned this tub this way, so we shortened it. So we raised the floor up in the tub to get more ground clearance, again, without raising the overall ride height. Another cool detail right here is we modified the heck out of this windshield frame. So we cut and chopped the window this way. We also resectioned all this and laid the window back to give it just a more modern look. And then it's got this two-piece split window to kind of go with the old classic split window setup. One thing that's cool, like I mentioned before, the guy that's owned this has had this for 40 years, and he literally drove this in high school. And he made these in high school shop class 30 some odd years ago, which that's pretty awesome right there. So those are all restored and put back on there. Coming back to the back, you can see it's got that same style of suspension that we did. And so it's a triangulated 4-link, sorry, with the coil spring and the custom Radflo bypass shocks. All the suspension links on this are 70/75 aluminum, and it's got Johnny joint style joints on the end of it, and it's got rod ends on a couple of the links also. Again, you can peek through in this back with this Dirty Life wheel and the full floating high pinion 60 Dynatrac rear end. This thing is such a short wheelbase And with the drivetrain package in it, it has a really short drive shaft, which you'll check out in a minute. And they're all 1350, so they're built for the task that they need. But we needed to go with the high pinion setup. So again, this has an XD60 high pinion rear with the same 513 gears and the Airby air locker and the 35 spline. But it is a full floater also. In the back of this Willy, one thing that's really cool, like I said before, we channeled the body. So we cut the floor out and raised everything up to get the ground clearance. We hand built this tailgate also, which is just a sweet little unit. It's got this pretty awesome bumper on the back that very protective of the body, but at the same point, it's a good platform and something you can step on if you need to. It also has, for a Willys, a back seat, which alone is pretty crazy, but it's also got all this storage space in the back behind it. So taking this thing out, going and using it, it's pretty functional to go cruise around, go to the grocery store, do whatever you need to do in this thing. We got this little receiver on here, so this way you can haul like a mountain bike rack on the back of this thing if you need to. So why don't we go ahead and we'll check out the underneath of this. All right, guys, so on the underneath of this thing, you can again see this custom Sessions Motorsports full chassis that we engineered and built for this Willys. Also underneath this, you can take a look and see how protected that the belly of the beast truly is. So it has a full skid plate system that completely wraps up under the motor, all the way back under the transmission and the transfer case. There's a good view of the Atlas. The ARB's hidden up in there. You can also see probably one of the world's shortest drive shafts. That drive shaft's only about 15 inches long, 1350 CV and 1350 at the diff. Here's a good view of that high pinion Dynatrac 60. You can kind of see the exhaust sneaking around through there, the shocks. Notice how much up travel this thing has. So for the wheelbase on this thing, this Willys actually gets after it in the bumps with these shocks. There's been a decent amount of tuning done on these shocks, so it rocks for what it is. So it's hard to get a short wheelbase rig to rock in the whoops, but this thing does really well. It's quite impressive for what it does. Why don't we go ahead and we'll take a look at the motor in this thing. All right, so the motor in this thing, you guys, it had a GM Performance Parts crate, small block Chevy in it. It was an iron-headed small block, and it had about 300 horsepower, and it had an Edelbrock EFI. So this guy decided that he wanted to go with like something in the 450, 500 horsepower range, which in something, this thing, by the way, from a weight standpoint, only weighs about 3,700 pounds. So this thing's a little rocket. It's really fun to drive. So this engine is a crate engine from Blueprint Engines. It's a 400 cubic inch, comes with a custom block, and it literally dynos at 523 horsepower, which is pretty awesome. So, and it's got epic torque. This is a really awesome motor for the money, and it's a fairly lightweight package. It packages a little smaller and a little better than an LS in something like this because it's narrower where the valve covers are than like an LS. The other thing is to be truthful, we kind of choose to go with a small block over an LS in this platform because it kind of fits what this is. This is a 1948, so when you pop the hood, this is kind of what you're expecting to see in it. And it's still an epic engine. It's a fully forged bottom end, full roller camshaft, all roller valve train. It's aluminum heads. It's fairly lightweight for the package, and it has a Holley Sniper EFI setup on it. So this has a PSC Hydro Assist. It also has Hydro Boost brakes. That's something that we just upgraded over. It had manual brakes in it before, but with the 39s, the bigger axles, we decided to go to Hydro Boost brakes. One thing that's really cool about this Willys is we did a huge radiator for a flat fender Jeep. So this is a 31-inch wide radiator that we put in this Jeep. We had to hand build all the shrouding and all the stuff in here to make this work. But I'm very thankful that we did do all that work to fit that radiator because it absolutely keeps this motor cool, no problem. So once again, just a really sweet motor. The tranny in this thing is a Tremec 5-speed. So it's a pretty awesome manual with a hydraulic clutch. It's got a super soft clutch that anybody can drive. And then it has an Atlas transfer case like you saw before. So it's a pretty sweet little drivetrain package. And this thing is so fun to drive down the road. This thing will cruise down the highway at 70, 75, thumb on the wheel. It's crazy how good this Willys drives. You can use this thing pretty much for anything you want to use it for. Like I said, the gentleman had already put 2,000 miles on it the way it was before, and now with this new setup, it is even more fun to drive than it was before. So once again, guys, this is a awesome machine. We hope you'll go back and check out the previous video. Like I said, I love this thing. It's an awesome rig. 1948, the guys owned it for over 40 years. It was a huge project, huge build, completely handcrafted, custom chassis, all the drivetrain, all the good stuff. and it's a real Jeep hot rod. So if you like this stuff, guys, like and subscribe to the channel. We'll keep putting it out. You guys have a good day.